Carl Sagan, Cosmos. Traveler's Tales. Typically all many ships set sail halfway around the world, down the west coast of Africa through what they called the Ethiopia Sea, around the south coast of Africa, within the Strait of Madagascar, and on past the southern tip of India they sailed, to one major focus on their interest, the Spice Island, present-day Indonesia. Some expeditions journeyed from there to a land named New Holland and today called Australia. A few ventured through the Strait of Malacca, past the Philippines, to China. We know from a mid-17th century account of an embassy from East India Company of the United Province of the Netherlands to the giant Tata Cham, Emperor of China. The Deutsche Bürger's ambassador and sea captain stood wide-eyed in amazement, face to face with another civilization in the imperial city of Peking. Never before or since had Holland been the world power it was then, a small country, forced to live by its wit. Its foreign policy contained a strong pacifist element. Because of its tolerance for unorthodox opinions, it was a haven for intelligent intellectuals who were refugees from censorship and sought control, elsewhere in Europe, much as the United States benefited enormously in the 1930s by the exodus of intellectuals from the Nazi-dominated Europe. So, 17th century Holland was the home of the great Jewish philosopher Spinoza, whom Einstein admired, of Descartes, a pivotal figure in the history of the mathematics and philosophy, and of John Locke, a political scientist who influenced a group of philosophically inclined revolutionary named Fame. Group of philosophical inclined revolutionary named Fame, Hamilton, Adams, Franklin, and Jefferson. Never before and since has Holland been graced by such a galaxy of artists and scientists, philosophers and mathematicians. This was the time of the master painters Rembrandt and Vermeer and Franz Hall, Leeuwenhoek, the inventor of the microscope, and Grotius, the founder of international law, of Wilbur Snellius, who discovered the law of the refraction of light. In the Deutsche tradition of encouraging freedom of thought, the University of Leiden offered a professorship to an Italian scientist named Galileo, who had been forced by the Catholic Church under threat of torture to recant his heretical view that the earth moved around the sun and not vice versa. Galileo had close ties with Holland, and his first astronomical telescope was an improvement of a spyglass of Dutch design. Into it he discovered sunspot, the face of Venus, the craters of the moon, and the four large moons of Jupiter, now called after him the Galilean satellite. Galileo's own description of his ecclesiastical trivials is contained in a letter he wrote in the year 1615 to the Grand Duchess Christina. Some years ago, your Serene Highness knows I discovered in heaven many things that had not been seen before our own age. The novelty of these things, as well as some consequences followed from them, in contradiction to the physical notion commonly held among academic philosophers, stood up against me. No smaller number of professors, many of them celestials. As if I had placed these things in the sky with my own hand in order to upset nature and overturn the sciences. They seemed to forget that the increase of known truths stimulated the investigation, establishment, and growth of the art. The connection between Holland as an extraordinary power and Holland as an intellectual and cultural center was very strong. The improvement of sailing ships encouraged technology of all kinds. People enjoyed working with their hand. Inventions were prized. Technological advance required the freest possible pursuit of knowledge. So Holland became the leading philosopher and bookseller in Europe, translating works written in other languages and permitting the publication of works proscribed elsewhere. Adventures into exotic land and encounters with strange societies took confidence, challenged thinkers to reconsider the prevailing wisdom and showed that idea that had been accepted for thousands of years, for example on geography, were fundamentally in error. In a time when kings and emperors ruled much of the world, the Dutch Republic was governed more than any other nation by the people. The openness of society and in its encouragement of the life of the mind, its material well-being, and its commitment to the exploration and utilization of a new world generate joyful confidence in the human enterprise. In Italy, Galileo had announced other worlds, and Giordano Bruno had speculated on other life forms. For this, they had been made of suffer brutally. But in Holland, the astronomer Christian Huygens, who believed in both, who showered with honors. His father was Constantin Huygens, a master diplomat of the age, a literature, poet, composer, musician, close friend and translator of the England poet John Donne, and the head of an archetypical great family. Constantine admired the painter Rubens and discovered a young artist named Humbert van Rijn. In several of those works, he subsequently appeared. After their first meeting, Descartes wrote of him, "I could not believe that a single mind could occupy itself with so many things, and you keep yourself so well in all of them." The Huygens' home was filled with goods from all over the world. Distinguished singers from other nations were frequent guests. Growing up in this environment, the young Christian Huygens became simultaneously adept in language, drawing, law, science, engineering, mathematics, and music. His interests and allegiance were broad. The world is my country, he said, science my religion. Light was a motif of the age, the symbolic enlightenment of freedom of thought and religion, the geographical discovery, the light that permeates the painting of the time, particularly the exquisite work of Vermeer, and the light as an object of scientific inquiry. As in Snell's study of reflection, Leeuwenhoek's invention of the microscope, and Huygens' own wave theory of light. These were well-connected activities, and their practitioners mingled freely. Vermeer's interiors are characteristically filled with nautical artifacts and wall maps. Microscopes were drawing room curiosity. Ruben Hawker was executor of Vermeer's stage and a frequent visitor of the Huygens home in Warwick. Ruben Hawker of microscope involved from the magnifying glasses employed by drapers to examine the quality of clothes. With it, he discovered the universe in a drop of water, the microbe, which he described animal clothes and thought cute. Huygens had contributed to the design of the first microscope and himself made many discoveries with them. Ruben Hawker and Huygens were among the first people ever to see human sperm cells, the prerequisite for understanding human reproduction. To explain how microorganisms slowly develop in water previously sterilized by boiling, Huygens proposed that they were small enough to flow through the air and produce a lightning in water. Thus, he established an alternative to spontaneous regeneration. The notion that life was raised in implanting grape juice and rotting meat, entirely independent of pre-existing life. It was not until the time of Louis Pasteur, 2 centuries later, that Huygens' speculation was proved correct. The Viking search for life of Mars can be traced in more ways than one back to Ruben Hawker and Huygens. They are also the grandfather of the germ theory of disease, and therefore much of modern medicine. But they had no practical motives in mind. They were merely thinkering in a technological society. The microscope and telescope was developed in early 17th century Holland, represent an extension of a human version of the realm of the very small and very large. Our observation of atom and galaxy were launched in this time and place. Christian Huygens loved to grind and polish the lens for astronomical telescope and construct one 5 meters long. His discovery with telescope would by themselves have ensured his place in the history of human accomplishment. In the footsteps of Eratosthenes, he was the first person to measure the size of another planet. He was also the first to speculate that Venus is completely covered with cloud. The first to draw a surface feature on the